Good afternoon and many thanks for listening to my lecture recital. I would like to discuss a few things about my ongoing research. This project examines new repertoire for guitar inspired by the operas of Sicilian composer Vincenzo Bellini, written by composers who share the same place of birth, such as Andrea Amici, Roberto Cipollina and Salvatore Zappalà. These compositions have been written collaborating with me in the last year. Most of my research project concerns performance and interpretation of works by guitarist-composers lived in the 19th century. In this specific case, my luck depends on the possibility of collaborating with contemporary composers who, like me, are Sicilians and are interested in increasing the repertoire for guitar inspired by the operatic and non-operatic themes of Vincenzo Bellini. This represents also a branch of my collaborative project, Contemporary Recital Sicilian Landscape, involving Sicilian contemporary composers. This branch of my research explores the relationship between the original vocal instrumental writing and their subsequent modification through guitar scores. A primary aspect concerns the actual performance issues mostly related to guitar writing by non-guitarist composers and the centrality of the performer's contribution to the nature of the original works is explored. My research seeks to demonstrate that such works are worthy of wider dissemination and can contribute to enhanced knowledge. This investigation is supported by live concert performances as well as studio recordings. My aims are to promote this repertoire in order to stimulate the interest in it by other guitarists, contemporary composers, and the wider musical public. While in performing 19th century repertoire, I refer to previous research in performance practice, in collaborating with contemporary composers, there is the possibility to intervene directly in their work. In some cases, by establishing together interpretative directions. In others, by suggesting modifications to make the parts more idiomatic, especially when the composer is not a guitarist, or by writing sections of the pieces in accordance with the composer. Each composer filled an existing gap in the repertoire that is the subject of my research. Andrea Amici composed Belliniana, a multi-thematic fantasy using themes from operas, symphonies, romances and masses. In addition, the guitar is part of a chamber ensemble of its kind. Previously, the composer used the theme of Casta Diva together with the theme of a famous American song. Roberto Cipollina composed Variation on a theme from Pirata, which was previously arranged on the guitar by Mauro Giuliani, one of his latest works. Salvatore Zappalà arranged the symphony of Bellini's first opera, Adelson e Salvini, for 2 guitars. A previous arrangement of Pirata Symphony by Mauro Giuliani and constant revisions and modification of the score by myself assisted him in completing the work. Now, let me introduce you to the compositions. About a year ago, I was working on music for guitar composed in the United States and inspired by Bellini themes. Among libraries and online catalogs, there was no evidence concerning arrangements of Casta Diva, cavatina from Norma. Therefore, I asked to Andrea Amici, a Sicilian composer, to write an arrangement that could ideally unite Vincenzo Bellini and the US. This led to Bellini in the USA, a composition completed in June 2020. A visionary idea, a trip that Bellini, if he had not died prematurely in 1835, would have made to the United States in the following decade, and from there he would have brought back some musical memories, especially one that he found similar to his musical sensitivity. Two themes thus intertwine, Casta Diva and Come, or Come With Me, The Moon is Beaming, a serenade by B.S. Barclay-esque adaptation of an Italian melody. In composing and arranging for guitar, some keys present technical issues and the left hand may be forced to constantly change between uncomfortable and otherwise complex positions. In this case, the composer's choice of using the key of C facilitated performance on the guitar and the imitation of the voice of a singer. Intended as a collage of themes by Vincenzo Bellini that variously intertwine in a succession of different atmospheres, Belliniana is a fantasy for guitar, two flutes, oboe, clarinet, horn, bassoon, and harp. The piece begins with the juxtaposition of fragments taken from the symphonies of Pirata and Norma, to arrive at a first lyric opening with the chamber aria Vaga Luna. A short cadenza on the guitar introduces A non credea mirarti from La Sonnambula, then a moved section dedicated to the symphonic Bellini, taken from the Capriccio of the Symphony in C minor, which leads to the finale that reproposed the whole of the prelude of Norma, superimposed and interspersed with the fragments of the previous panel, then ending with the last quote from Il Pirata, thus closing the entire path circularly. Characterized by dense contrapuntal writing, the main features of the composition is the fragmentation of the melody from one instrument to another. This composition includes a theme and 7 variations on the aria Nel furor delle tempeste from Pirata. Despite originally written without any connection to the work of Mauro Giuliani, the modification of every thematic aspect reveals his typical style. Otherwise, while Giuliani pushed technical elaboration towards sound resources of the instrument, including arpeggio techniques, ligatures, scales, Cipollina points to the contrapuntal complexity of writing. Usually, A minor and C major keys facilitate the performance on the guitar, but in some cases, the left hand is forced to constantly change between uncomfortable or otherwise complex positions during the performance. Because of this, I recorded variation 4 and 6 slower than I first expected. Since 1830, arrangements of well-known Bellinian themes on the guitar were popular. Thus, professional guitarists and amateurs were provided of them from a consistent number of composers such as Giuliani, Carulli and many others. Arrangements from Bellini's first opera, Adelson e Salvini, were not included in this list. It was performed as a premiere in Naples in 1825, then revised. This arrangement for two guitars is inspired by the reduction for voice and piano published by Riccardo in 1828, which was performed at Teatro Massimo Bellini in Catania in 1992, under the guidance of the Sicilian musicologist Domenico De Meo, to whom this recording is dedicated. The first and shorter edition of the Symphony presented a greater number of similarities to that of Pirata. Both finales from F major and E major sections are taken from Giuliani's arrangement. During my revision, I worked on the accompaniment to enhance the idiomaticness and sound. In bars 77-78 and 81-82, I added a counterpoint on the second guitar. In the performance stage, I sought to expand the palette of sounds available on the guitar in order to reflect the orchestration of the original work. To record the symphony, I played first guitar part, then the second. At some stages, I was forced to use the metronome, as the absence of interplay with another musician could have created inconvenience. I have just presented some extracts from new compositions on Bellini by Sicilian contemporary composers. I am continuing to explore further related repertoires, which I will again be performing and recording. This will allow me to further recreate the ideas and unique timbres of my composer's original intentions. Thank you very much.